Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
When was the last time you saw your son alive?
They found his son in a shallow grave.
They dug a little ways. It was the foot they found first.
Was his son's best friend
When your son's missing, did you ask Benny where he was?
one of the killers?
He's like, just can't believe he's gone. Well, nobody said he's gone yet.
The chilling allegations.
You say they beat him.
And then to make sure he was dead, they picked up a rock and smashed his head. I wish they would go through the same thing they put my son through, honestly.
Today, a shocking story of two best friends that allegedly ended in murder. Police say when 16-year-old Benjamin Eastman disappeared, he thought he was meeting his friend Benny and Benny's older brother to go on a camping trip. They say the three boys went into the woods together, but only two came out alive. The teen's body was found a week later, buried in a shallow grave. Benny and his brother Jonathan were charged with the murder.
New information tonight in the case of a missing teen. Deputies say Ben Eastman III was last seen at his home last Saturday night.
Deputies learned the missing teen had been in some sort of dispute with 16-year-old Benny Marquez, a friend he's known for years. But it appears from messaging that the dispute had been resolved. Deputies say early Sunday morning, the teen was supposed to meet up with Marquez, but that friend claims he never showed up.
Deputies then got a tip that a dog had recently been buried on a remote property belonging to Marquez's grandfather.
When they got up to the area, it was a shallow a grave site that looked too large for a dog, and it looked suspicious at the time.
A body found in a shallow grave in Lewis County, Washington, may be a missing teenager.
And now detectives say they want to question the teenager's friend and the friend's brother, but they can't find them. They are looking for 16-year-old Benny Marquez and his brother, 21-year-old Jonathan Adamson.
We now know that they tracked them down late yesterday, more than 100 miles away near Ellensburg, Washington. They've been brought back to Lewis County and booked on suspicion of murder.
Jonathan Adamson and Benito Marquez are being accused of luring Ben Eastman into the woods for a camping trip, then raping and beating him to death.
The coroner's office says he died of blunt force trauma to the head.
The teen's father says he and the small community there are devastated.
All you could expect out of his son, loved life, loved the outdoors, loved everybody, and you can tell by the way the community's reacted how many lives he's touched.
Did the unthinkable happen that night? Was Ben lured to his death by his closest and oldest friend, a boy he had known almost his whole life? Well, today, Ben's father is here in an exclusive interview. While his son was missing, he says he conducted his own investigation. The details he discovered were disturbing. Here's his story. I am so terribly sorry for your loss. One thing you won't hear me say today is I know how you feel.
Right.
I can't even wrap my head around what you must be going through right now. How long has it been exactly?
That was June 24th.
When was the last time you saw your son alive?
I can't remember the exact date, but it was a Saturday evening. We went up to one of the local high lakes where we ride dirt bikes and fish, and he had actually left early with one of his buddies. When I came down, I was kind of harassing him. I was like, you left the mountain to come play video games? That's what they were doing. And I'd never played the game that he was playing, and he wanted me to try out. And so we played that for a little while, but I wasn't very good, so yeah. He was telling me how much garbage I was at it, and we laughed. But
how did y'all get along?
He was my best friend.
And what did you call your son? How did you refer to him?
Baby Bird was what I called him.
Baby Bird?
Yeah, he was always chirping, so
yeah.
I called him Baby Bird.
Yeah. What was the last thing you said to him?
I said, I'm going to bed, love you. We're always pretty good about telling each other we love each other, but that was the last thing I said.
So just the two of you?
Mm-hmm. Well, my daughter she may have been up playing too.
When you went to bed Saturday, you expected that he was going to play some more and then go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
When you got up Sunday, what time did you get up?
It was probably about 8, 9. Then I noticed he was gone, which wasn't unusual because Benny lived, a little wooded area you could walk. He snuck out. They did that a lot. I felt pretty safe.
How long had your son been friends with Benny Marquez?
Since kindergarten.
So over 10 years?
Yep.
And so nobody's confused. Baby Bird is Ben. The friend is Benny.
Yeah.
So we got Ben and Benny
here.
Okay. And what was their relationship like?
Ben would go over there and spend weekends when they lived at the ranch. His grandparents owned a campground. But I didn't ever worry about him over there.
Fair to say Ben and Benny were kind of like brothers?
Best friends, pretty close.
Did you know Benny?
Yeah.
Well?
Yeah, I thought I knew him well. I trusted him.
Describe him. What was he like?
Well, like in football, he had a little anger, but that's something that's kind of encouraged sometimes in football, as long as you keep it respectful. Kind of didn't say a lot, quiet.
Did they ever have falling outs in the past, big falling outs or anything?
Little arguments, but it was over, like girls, and they patched it up, and no big deal. And then there was an argument right before this, but I wasn't aware of, over one of Benny's ex-girlfriends and something to do with Snapchat, but they seem to have patched up.
So you don't really have any alarm go off in your head until Tuesday?
Yeah. Tuesday evening.
And why did it go off Tuesday evening?
Because the 3 people that are always in contact with him didn't know where he was.
And when did you discover that he was missing?
Well, see, my aunt, her name's Elma, helped me a lot in raising him, as a mother figure. Sometimes, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but, the mother sometimes wasn't in the picture, so she stepped into that role. If he wasn't with me, he was with her. And then his half-brother, Derek, was another third person he would be at. The 3 main locations we knew where he was at all times. And then when Elma messaged me on Tuesday evening, if I'd seen him, then I knew something was wrong. Then I started looking around, and I couldn't come up with anything. So I went to work Wednesday morning. I couldn't get through. I called the sheriff, reported him missing, and then I just knew something was up. Had to leave work. And
what did the sheriff say?
Well, they were a little hesitant to take my information seriously. I'm not.
You got a teenage boy.
Right, and that's probably pretty protocol to. These kind of things happen all the time. Teenagers probably run off, but I just tried to stress to them he has no reason not to contact one of us, because if he's mad at me, he goes to Elma's. He's mad at both of us. He's at his brother's. You don't run away.
So you leave work, and what do?
Well, we group at my house, and we start crossing off where he could be, and then
who's we?
Just my family, just a group of us. His close friend had his passwords for most of the stuff he used, so we got into his Facebook Messenger, got into his Snapchat just to try to see where. And then we got into his Messenger and seen 5 missed calls from Benny at 3:04 in the morning. Finally got through to him. So 5 missed, and then finally it woke him up, and that was the end. No phone activity, nothing after that. So I knew the story ended over there.
And those calls were from Benny, so that would have been early Sunday morning.
Yep.
So Benny's calling and waking him up.
Yep.
And what did you think they were up to at that point?
Well, it wasn't unusual for, they live so close. They're teenagers, it's summer, be up late. I knew they would have been planning a camping trip.
So when you see that calls are coming in from Benny, then Ben calls him back, and then contact stops. When he's missing, did you ask Benny if he knew where he was?
Yeah.
What did he say?
No, we were supposed to go camping, and he never showed up.
He said, I don't know where he is?
Is there anybody you know that he might have met with, left with? No, nothing. He didn't have any information.
Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagine what had happened?
Coming up,
Now, Benny posted on Facebook about the search for your son.
He knew all the information already. He was the missing piece.
At this point, you think he put this up purposely?
We now return to a Dr. Phil exclusive.
Two people are in custody in connection with a homicide of a Lewis County teen. Authorities confirmed the body found earlier this week is that of 16-year-old Ben Eastman. His family had reported him missing last weekend. The coroner's office says he died of blunt force trauma to the head. Lewis County Sheriff's detectives arrested two people of interest in Ellensburg yesterday, a 16-year-old boy and his 21-year-old brother. They will be appearing in court on Monday.
Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine what had happened?
No, honestly, I was hoping that maybe he did a harder drug and was ashamed to tell me about it and was hiding from me. That's what I was hoping.
Right. Now, Benny posted on Facebook about the search for your son. What did the post say?
He shared a flyer to help him find him.
Well, that's the flyer, and then he posts beside it, please, if you hear anything about him or where he's at, notify Eastman's dad and send prayers out for his family.
Yeah, that's trying to get him off track, because I'd been at their house, and I told him, I looked him in the eye and said, I will stop at nothing.
So, at this point, you think he put this up purposely?
Yeah, to draw, to throw attention off of himself. That's obvious.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because he knew. Yeah, this was long done when he put that up there. He knew all the information already. He was the missing piece.
How do you feel about that?
There's some anger. They did the worst possible thing to my son, and he's trying to hide it right here. I think he knew he wasn't going to get away with it because I knew for a fact that he was the last person to talk to my son.
Did the police or anyone comment on this post?
No.
Because the post has red flags. He's referring to your son without his name.
Oh yeah, there was some red flags when I went with my father-in-law and spoke to him. He was sad. He's like, well, I just can't believe he's gone. Well, nobody said he's gone yet. And then his older brother, Jonathan, he's like, I'm sorry to hear what happened to Ben. We haven't said anything. We're just looking for him. Nobody said anything has happened to him yet. And,
So these two are alluding to the fact that something has happened before anybody said something has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Did that go off in your head at the time?
Yeah, well, it went off in my father-in-law's head. I was just trying to look at their knuckles or their hands, look for any kind of, if they've hit somebody or.
Right.
And the mother had, she come out to be their spokesperson, and the mother had said she knew about the camping trip at 3:30 in the morning, and she was waiting out there for him and wondered why he didn't show up. And we're like, why are you waiting for my son at 3:30 in the morning?
But you're saying that she was aware of what allegedly had taken place?
Yes, there's no doubt in my mind she was aware.
So they came home and told her, or she knew about it ahead of time?
I'm thinking they panicked. Somebody coached him. I'm not trying to say she did, but who else is going to coach him?
So she would be suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go over there to talk to them, you're suspicious because he's the last person to have talked to your son?
Yeah.
That's why you're suspicious?
That's why I'm suspicious.
But then when you get there, you start just not feeling right.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that? Did you say, hey,
no, I
come on.
just kind of walked away, and when we left, we was like, when you get the sheriff over there.
When you left, did they think they had pulled this off, pulled the wool over your eyes, or did they think, yeah, this is not going well?
I think they thought they might have got me,
Smoothed it over?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, you got to your son's Facebook account and read his messages. Now, how long had he been missing at that point?
Well, let's see. Wednesday, we got into his Facebook. He was gone Sunday morning.
Okay. And what messages did you discover? And who were they between? And what did they say?
The argument between him and Benny about the girl. Ben had said, well, we talked about this already. "You were drunk?" And then Benny responds, "Oh yeah, I was just drunk. I forgot. It's all good." You know, and that was the end of it. I wish I'd have known about that argument.
And what was the argument? Do you now know what they were arguing
It was
about?
some kind of picture Ben sent to Benny's ex-girlfriend on Snapchat, I do believe.
A picture of what?
As he had a thing with taking pictures of his muscles or flexing and.
Oh, so Ben sent a picture, a personal picture,
Yeah.
to a girl that Benny didn't want him sending the picture to.
Right.
Because Benny was jealous of him sending the picture.
Right.
So he was upset about that.
Right.
But then Ben is saying, wait a minute, we've already talked about
Right.
this and resolved this. You're just drunk and forgot?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then Benny apologized. Yeah, my bad. I was just too drunk, forgot about it. It's all good.
Forgot that we had resolved this?
Yeah.
Was there anything in those messages that you read that was incriminating? Did it reference this middle of the night meeting or
No,
there was
just
nothing
the calls.
incriminating? Okay. Now, when you start searching for your son, where did you go, why, and what led you to ultimately find what you found?
Coming up.
They told the police that they picked up Ben, took him out to a location, beat him, raped him with a stick for about 45 minutes. And then to make sure he was dead, they found a rock and smashed the side of his face.
We now return to Dr. Phil's exclusive interview.
When you start searching for your son, where did you go, why, and what led you to ultimately find what you found?
Okay. Well, I just searched behind my house to the trail to Benny's house. That's all I searched. My good friend told me that he had spoken to a mutual friend about them doing some logging up at the campground, Benny's grandparents' property, and that there's four-wheeler trails and stuff over there, and that's probably a place if they're going to do, because at this point we know they're not being truthful with us. They know something, and my son's gone. You know, I'm being real. I'm holding on to hope, but I'm being real.
Okay.
I want to cover our bases. You know, we know the area. We know how close they were at that campground, and it's a pretty big area, and they would feel pretty safe. So my friend, he's a contractor. He did a job for a neighbor over there, and he was able to get access to the back around there. And they just kind of combed the area and come up to something looked pretty suspicious.
And so this friend of yours said they frequent that area.
Right.
You might want to go there because that'd be somewhere that they would know to go.
Right.
So they go up there and start looking around.
They found my son's remains, basically.
And was it near those trails?
Yeah, they say around 50 feet behind their grandpa's shop.
How did they tell you?
My friend called me and said, well, we found something. I was like, well, what'd you find? He's like, well, I think we found a grave. I'll send you a picture of it. So we did get a deputy to go over there to investigate, because they didn't touch it. They didn't want to. And they dug a little ways, and I think it was the foot they found first.
How was that confirmed to you? Did they call you?
The three friends that went over there drove to me, and I could tell when they got out of the truck that they had found something.
And what did they say to you?
He's gone. It was a numb feeling I got. You know, I had very little emotion for a while. I felt like I should be more of a wreck, but I was just numb.
And when they came to you, were you at your house?
Yeah.
So your three friends come up and say, we found something, and...
It's human, you know, it's human. And nobody had to go identify him. You know, the coroner identified him, so, you know, I couldn't even view him. It was so bad. It took a while to sink in. It was just like, well, he can come walking through the doors. It's not him, you know, it's just not real yet. And you start looking at pictures, starts sinking in that, you know, his little smart mouth, you ain't gonna get the joke back and forth, you know, football season. And now it's really hitting hard. Now I'm realizing that was him. There's no denying it no more. He's gone.
You said that at the time there was no reason to view because it was not, the body was not in a way that could be recognized?
They felt they had enough evidence to make an identification. And then when I wanted to go say goodbye, you know, they didn't feel that was a very good idea.
And what had happened that made that not a very good idea? It was
about a 45-minute beating they took, and then to make sure he was dead, they picked up a rock and smashed his head.
This was allegedly Benny, his best friend, or certainly one of them, and Jonathan. And Jonathan is older?
Yeah.
How much older?
21, 22.
And what story have they told to the police of what happened?
They told the police that they picked up Ben, took him out to a location, beat him, raped him with a stick for about 45 minutes. And then to make sure he was dead, they found a rock and smashed the side of his face or head or something. They said that the attack went on for about approximately 45 minutes. Kicking him, and his whole body was all bruised.
Why did they do this? Closed captioning provided by...
We now return to a Dr. Phil exclusive.
Two brothers are charged with the sexual assault and murder of a Lewis County teenager. The body of 16-year-old Benjamin Eastman was found last week. Investigators say Eastman's friend, 16-year-old Benito Marquez, and his 21-year-old brother, Jonathan Adamson, lured the teen to a wooded area. They say the brothers beat Eastman to death, but didn't reveal a motive.
They said that the attack went on for about approximately 45 minutes. Kicking him, and his whole body was all bruised.
Why did they do this?
I have not got that information yet.
Do you think he went willingly?
Yeah, I think he went to have a good time. Head out in the woods. It ain't unnormal to go drive in the woods, you know, and he probably trusted them enough to know, you know, even if they're acting a little strange, that he's still going to be all right.
So you think they lured him up there where he just thought they were just going out there to hang out, camp out, go to the woods, have a good time, and he got out there and just out of the blue they jumped him?
Yeah, this is kind of a pretty rural road, and then if they stopped there, or if he ran somewhere, but there's nowhere to run, you got a bank with a river down here and a steep mountain to your left, there's just nowhere to go.
Did either this Benny or Jonathan, did either of them have any history of this kind of violence?
Benny would get in fights. I didn't know about this till afterwards. You know, I knew he, had his little hot head in football, but.
And what do you know about this Jonathan?
I just met him a few times. Laid back, quiet. Not the typical kid you would think to pull this kind of brutal thing off.
You say they beat him, they raped him with a stick, they smashed his head. I understand he was also burned.
I know they burned all his clothes. He burned all his belongings.
Had he been burned with a cigarette prior?
Yeah. My aunt, Elma, had mentioned, I didn't know about this, but yeah, when he'd go there hang out, she said he came back with a cigarette burn, but he just joked it off like it was just teenage horseplay that had caused that.
So you have no idea of what explanation they gave to the police about why they did this? No. And do you know why they confessed?
I'm sure because they knew they'd been caught, you know. I'm sure, when you got two people involved in a case, I'm sure there's things you can say to one another to get them possibly to
flip on each other.
Yeah, start putting stuff together.
And so now they're charged with first-degree murder?
Yeah, they're charged with first-degree murder, first-degree rape, first-degree illegal disposal of human remains or something like that, and then there's another charge for moving him.
And they're charged as adults, of course.
Yes, that's something I wanted to bring up is Benny is charged as an adult, but there's an act called the Miller Act that once he's 25, he will go in front of a board, and there's a pretty good chance he will be released when he's 25 because that's how the law is when he's under 17. So he could do 9 years for this.
You say the mother was also arrested initially, but has been released?
Yes, she's made a plea of guilty. I do believe she'll probably be testifying against her own sons.
Wow. So she's rolled over on her own sons, as far as you know.
As far as I know.
I mean, this is an adult. It's supposed to be an adult in the situation here. What are your thoughts? What do you have to say to her?
Coming up.
One report, at least that I know, cited that Ben's relationship with Benny and Jonathan's younger sister was a motive for what took place. Is that ring true? Is that possible? Closed captioning provided by...
We now return to Dr. Phil's exclusive interview.
Earlier this week, deputies arrested the suspect's mother, 43-year-old Kendra Adamson. They say she also knew about the murder. Jonathan Adamson and Benito Marquez are being accused of luring Ben Eastman into the woods for a camping trip, then raping and beating him to death.
You say the mother was also arrested initially, but has been released?
Yes, she's made a plea of guilty.
I mean, this is an adult. It's supposed to be an adult in the situation here. What are your thoughts? What do you have to say to her?
No, I just pray that what she says is truthful, that she had nothing to do with this, but if she has more to do with it, justice is served. I get so angry sometimes, and it's easy to go to the, I want that family to feel the same pain I am,
Well, Ben has a half-brother, right? His name is...
Derek.
So I want to add him to this conversation so we can hear from him. Derek, Dr. Phil, good to meet you. Have a seat. I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around something so senseless and so violent. Describe your relationship with Ben, your brother.
He was my best friend. No doubt about it.
What was he like?
I mean, even if someone was angry, just he could say anything just to make him happy. Whatever it took to make him happy, he'd do it.
He made an effort.
Yeah. I mean, even if he didn't know what you were into or what your interests were, he could talk to you, get you opened up a little bit, and then he'd figure out what you actually like talking about. He'd work it. He was good at it.
Yeah. So this was a nice kid.
Yeah.
Did you ever spend time with this Benny and Jonathan?
I used to go over there and hang out with them every now and then.
Looking back, do you see anything that would foretell anything like this happening?
No.
They were friends.
The way that they hung out together, it was like, okay, this kid is good for him. And if I had the feeling to where if anybody was to mess with my little brother, that he would have jumped in there too. But never would have expected anything like that.
Did you know that they had this flare-up over this picture that Ben sent to some girl or something?
No.
Did your brother have a relationship with Benny and Jonathan's younger sister?
Yeah, they all went to school together, and he liked his sister, but he mostly just hung out with Benny.
Yeah. And one report, at least that I know, cited that as the motive, that Ben's relationship with his sister was a motive for what took place. Is that ring true? Is that possible?
Could have had something to do with it.
And how old is she?
15.
So they're about the same age?
Yeah, he just turned 16 right before everything.
Did he like her a lot or something?
They never mentioned it to me because I think Benny made it pretty clear that was off limits, which I never, this all come out after the fact. You hear a lot of things.
There was some rumor that Benny had a fight club. Had you heard that?
It may have been something to do with the nature trail.
Wasn't wasn't technically like a club, but I mean, if he had a problem with someone, then he used to go take him somewhere and solve it.
When they discovered Ben in this shallow grave, there was a cross made of sticks. What do you make of that?
I don't know what to make of that. Maybe a little glimmer of remorse at some point. You know, one of the family members that had found out about it had went back over there and done that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
How were they eventually arrested
They ran.
and all that?
They ran. As soon as they found, you know, because the sheriffs headed over there.
Did they put up a fight or resist when they were arrested?
I don't think so.
So Jonathan and Benny were running?
Yep.
And did they catch him on the highway or what?
Yeah.
On one of the interstates.
What do you think should happen to these two?
Well,
what do you want to see happen? What is justice for them?
Pretty brutal, but it's the way I feel. I feel like I wish they would go through the same thing they put my son through, honestly.
If you're being honest, you feel vengeful.
Yeah.
You want your pound of flesh from these guys. And I don't blame you, and I understand that this is very raw at this point.
I don't know if given any kind of motive or anything is going to help at this point of why they did it, because it just didn't have to happen. I could have got him through some of the brutal stuff that they did. They didn't have to finish it off. I could have got my son through a brutal rape like that. I don't have the opportunity to get him through anything now.
Just one dad to another. Do you feel like you let your son down?
Coming up.
Do you believe that he died knowing that he was loved?
He knows he was loved. You know, I just asked myself, he was crying, wishing Dad was there.
We now return to a Dr. Phil exclusive.
There's now a fourth arrest in Lewis County, Washington for the murder of Ben Eastman. The sheriff's office says 20-year-old Emma Brown turned herself in yesterday. She's the fiance of suspect Jonathan Adamson and says she knew about the murder.
Now, Jonathan's girlfriend has also been arrested, right?
She's out on bail as well.
What do they believe her involvement was?
Rendering criminal assistance.
Aiding in some way.
How big of a part she had, it'll come out. Everything's going to come out, I feel pretty confident.
Just one dad to another. Do you feel like you let your son down?
You know, I just wish I could have been there. Maybe played the game a little longer like you asked. You know, the prosecutors tried to comfort me and said if I'd have woke up 8 o'clock in the morning, nothing would have been different. But, you know, I just asked myself, you think he was crying, wishing Dad was there? Because he knows I'd have died for him.
Do you think he was thinking of you in the end?
Oh, I pray that the Lord find a spot for him to be in the most difficult time of it, that he didn't feel nothing. That's what I hope.
Do you believe that he died knowing that he was loved?
He knows he was loved. No doubt in my mind, and he loved us. Loved family.
You know, there's absolutely nothing that I can say to you because you can't make sense out of nonsense. You know, this is such a nonsensical loss of life. It's such a pointless pain and suffering. It's got to be hard to wrap your head around it, and I can tell you why. Because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the constructs in our mind to go there. Your range of thought and emotion stops way short of evil. This is evil out here. And so you think, I can't wrap my head around that, because you can't go there in your mind. You know, I should have protected my son by seeing this. You can't see it because you don't have those receptors in your brain to see this kind of thing, because it's so foreign to who you are. The reason he didn't see this that night and say, whoa, I'm not going out there, is because he didn't have the receptors. He cannot conceive of what was getting ready to happen. Our brains have the ability to click off when something is happening around us that is so offensive to our sensibilities that we can't process it. And I know from a psychological standpoint that that happened with Ben that night. So I know it's little comfort, but just know that his brain and his body took him another place way before this all came to an end. He was not there for all of this, and he missed a lot of that, and I'm glad that he did, aren't you?
Yeah.
I hope that can be some comfort to you.
It is.
This will mean a lot to a lot of families that need to hear what's possible and what can happen out there.
Yeah, just ask your kids questions, you know. Might not mean much, but little questions, little details. Find out from their friends what kind of people, what kind of friends their kids are hanging out with.
I tell parents all the time, you're not being nosy or intrusive if you're checking up on your kids and knowing where they are in their chat rooms and stuff, but let me tell you, Dad, this was not negligence on your part. You knew where he was. You knew who he was with. You just didn't know what was hidden inside them.
All I got is just to honor him through the love that he was.
You know, there's no guarantees how long we have him. And it sounds to me like you certainly made the most out of the time you had. Both of you.
Yeah, thankful for the time we had, but I wanted more.
Coming up.
He does not want his legacy to be your pain for the rest of your life. You want to celebrate all of these years that you've had him, not the one day that you lost him. Closed captioning provided by... Hopefully you'll get to a place where you'll have him in your mind and your heart.
Just to try to find joy again, you know, it's...
And it'll come and he'll be part of it. You know, that's why I say you got to talk about it. And sometimes people say, you know, I don't want to bring it up and bring everybody down. Talk about it. Make him part of every celebration. I mean, really talk about it.
Yeah, that's where I've been at that a couple times. Like, well, I don't, you know, there's a family reunion. I was like, well, I don't want to go there because I'm just surrounded with sadness, you know.
Don't be that way. And you know something else will happen? You're going to catch yourself in the kitchen fiddling around. You're going to look up at something on TV and it's kind of stupid. You're going to catch yourself laughing and you're going to say, what kind of father am I? I have a dead son and I'm standing here laughing. No, that's not wrong. That you've got to have some relief and breaks. And from everything I understand about Ben, he does not want his legacy to be your pain for the rest of your life. He doesn't want every time you think about him, you know, to hang your head. He wants you to lift you up, laugh. Think about him with some joy. You want to celebrate all of these years that you've had him, not the one day that you lost him.
Thank you.
Proud to meet you, and we'll be thinking about you. Be in our hearts and prayers. I really want to thank Ben's father and brother for sharing their stories. 16-year-old Benito Marquez and his 21-year-old brother Jonathan Adamson have been charged with first-degree murder, rape, tampering with evidence, and unlawful disposal of remains. Both have pleaded not guilty to the charges. We have reached out to their attorneys but did not receive a response. The trial is expected to begin in October. The boy's mother, Kendra Adamson, was charged with rendering criminal assistance and has pleaded guilty. As part of her plea agreement, Adamson could testify against her own sons. We'll keep you posted on this story and we'll be praying for Ben's family. If you were touched by this story, the family has set up a memorial fund. They will donate the proceeds to assist other families dealing with tragedy. It's called the Ben Eastman Memorial Fund, and it's at Security State Bank in Morton, Washington. Thanks for watching.